19th currently in the Premier League, only 2 wins in 15 games. Things are not getting better for Wolverhampton Wanderers. Time is without a doubt up for Gary O'Neill. The sky is blue, the grass is green. It's the obvious stuff, right? It's a 30 agenda, and let's look at Wolverhampton Wanderers. Recording this less than 24 hours after the West Ham game, Wolves losing 2-1. The game that was known as El Sacchio. And even if Gary O'Neill did win that game, I still would have been pointing to him as the manager who should have got sacked if we were going by that game, deciding on whoever wins stays on. But let's just look at the shape that Gary O'Neill set up last night. A shape, by the way, that he is adamant in setting up. I mean, I haven't watched Wolves too much last season. I watched the whole game last night in preparation for today because I knew I wanted to make a video on Wolves this week. But this is what we're working with. A 3-4-2-1. Effectively, this is here to have 2 wing-backs. And the wing-backs will add width down the side as they go forward. They'll be there for link-up plays with the midfield. They'll be there for creative opportunities to set up the target man, Larsson. But it does leave the defence light. And one thing I've noticed from Wolves in all their games across the Premier League this season is their recklessness and their lack of care in going for a heavy tackle. They normally come out on the other side with plenty of booking points. Totti Gomez being one of them that kind of stands out for me. And even last night, I mean, recklessness through the whole kind of squad as such, because that recklessness even went past the final whistle last night with Lamina getting involved with not shaking Jared Bowen's hand. I mean, it's ridiculous, really, and so immature from these Premier League footballers, and probably an obvious and evident sign, again, of many, that Gary O'Neill doesn't have that under control. I'll talk more about the defence in a minute. However, if we just look at this screen grab from the West Ham game, this is an attack last night, and, you know, West Ham were playing a little bit safe themselves because they do concede quite a lot this season as well as Wolves. And ultimately, right here, we have a 4-4-2. Bowen and Kudus are up front, being there for the attacking break, the attacking opportunities. And we have 2 lines of 4 that are playing very deep back, kind of playing protective football. And ultimately, if Larsson's a sole striker, he's got to kind of go through these 8 players as such. And simply this kind of image itself that you can see here on your screens right now, it shouts out that Wolves need more support. Why is there hardly any players going forward whilst Wolves are breaking out on this attack? Because Doherty right there is about to whack in the ball, cross it in, and he actually does meet up with Cunha, and that is because Doherty is a good player. But there needs to be more attacking opportunities in this team. There's a midfield there that's so deep back right now for Wolves, and they're kind of mirroring West Ham as such, you know, protecting the ball themselves. I guess that's the idea of it. But there needs to be more from this midfield. This midfield isn't getting into the box and being a nuisance against their opposition. We've seen it a little bit this season, but what I'm basically trying to say is there's no full utilisation from Gary O'Neill with his players. You know, he's not utilising them to their own full capability. And whereas you think the midfield is dropping back themselves, just like West Ham is here, they're actually not. That back three is just simply a back three. There's no midfielders dropping back to support as such. Okay, you would have the wing backs doing that, but there's probably at least four positions for Wolves that I scratch my head at and think, what is their full role and responsibility in this team? What are they there to do? Because I see very little heat map warmth from Wolves in the middle. If anything, I just see the midfield losing the ball a lot of the time, being careless with their passes. You know, and which surprises me because, like, if you think back to Wolves, I remember when they first came in the Premier League, they were so slick with their passes, and I get the team has changed massively since then. But there's such a grey zone, this middle bit, and a zone that doesn't really make much sense to me. But just finishing with this image, where is everyone else? There's 3 players there in the attack. 2 players if you count the players in the attack that don't have the ball, shall I say. Cunha and Larsson. Great. They should be there. They are the goal scorers. But the midfielders, I feel, need to support that more in general. And I think this is where Gary O'Neill doesn't really see this as such. What I'm saying is a general opinion. You know, I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just my opinion. But O'Neill certainly plays this one branded version of football, and he isn't going to change for anyone. Now, this back three has so much ground to cover that this season already we've seen players like Jose Sá, the goalkeeper, having to tackle and actually give away penalties. I think he actually gave away 2 penalties, wasn't it, in the Bournemouth game? I might have got that wrong, but I know he's given away at least 1 penalty this season. And what this leaves with is 2 issues. One, it's an issue of, yes, a back three does have a lot of space to cover, and they're creating these kind of reckless tackles with little care in them to try and win the ball back. But also it creates another question of thought, which is, why is Gary O'Neill not getting that sorted and organised straight away? Why is he allowing game after game after game for the defence to be this reckless and pick up so many bookings? And like I said, I think it's just the basic format of a back three. It's this kind of lack of players that you have against an attack of 4 players in the opposition or 3 players in the opposition. I mean, last night we saw Bowen, Kudus, Somerville being a nuisance for that back three, and just having that lack of players when a team does break out, you know, you're completely outnumbered, and it leaves Wolves to making these actual kind of big bolstering reckless tackles. And everything that I'm saying that is wrong obviously leads back to Gary O'Neill. I don't think it's the case here with this football club that it's, well, the people at the top are to blame. You know, like, I guess there's this butterfly effect as such of, well, whoever employed Lopetegui in the first place, it obviously didn't work out, which has led to Gary O'Neill, which has actually led to this point, which I fully understand. But this is an ownership that has spent over 100 million in the transfer window just gone. They've supplied Gary with some good players. He's kind of stated and slanted the ownership in terms of how young they are. I think this was the West Ham game last night, or it might have been a previous game, basically saying how young his team is, and they have very little kind of development as yet because they are still young and they're not fully developed players. Well, that's just an excuse if you ask me. You know, there's no kind of praise for the ownership. At the end of the day, he needs to do his own job in terms of developing these players, is what I'm trying to say. But making his team more disciplined this season is something that he's failed on. It's just the basics of football, which a manager should be able to achieve at a football club, and he's just not even doing that. I mean, this season alone, we got Justin Kluivert for Bournemouth being the first and only player in the Premier League to score a hat-trick of penalties, all down to the carelessness and the recklessness of the Wolves defence. They've given away the most amount of penalties this season. They're third highest with the amount of yellow cards they've been awarded this season too. It's all down to the shape, isn't it? Is this shape working? Obviously not. And Gary O'Neill is so reluctant to change that. And that is why we're seeing a failing team. He will rot this team down to relegation, and things do need to change ASAP. Wolves fans, if you're watching, get involved with the discussion. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on Gary O'Neill, what's been happening with your club and what is going wrong, you know. And please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content. It'd be great to hear from you, of course. This has been The Footy Agenda. My name is Rob. Thank you for watching.